Hello, good morning, everyone. As the panel joins us, I'll go ahead and I'll introduce myself. I'm Brian Hansen. I'm the Chief Security Officer for Mastercard for Latin America and the Caribbean, based here in Miami, and very honored to be here as part of the Smart Cities Expo USA and be able to share some thoughts and discuss the topic of cybersecurity and discussing our invisible threats. And we'll go ahead and take seats and begin with our panel. Permit me, please, to introduce my esteemed panelists, Mayor Hardie Davis from the city of Augusta, Georgia. He's been mayor since 2015, trained as an electrical engineer and has quite a bit of experience working with systems, automation, controls, partially at the Department of Energy, and then again serving his community in politics and as the mayor, as I mentioned, from 2015. We have Katie Savage, who's the Deputy Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence Officer for Digital Services in the Department of Defense, and excited to have her here today. She's been there since 2019. Yes. And also, prior to joining the Department of Defense, she worked with the city of Chicago and led the launch of City Tech as a collaborative for that city, so that's excellent. We've got Michael Sherwood here with us as well from Las Vegas. He's the Chief Technology Officer and CIO as well. He's got more than 20 years of experience in process improvement, technology, and innovation. Antonio Delgado, who's Vice President of Innovation and Technology Partnerships for Miami-Dade College, so here locally. And I'm very excited to have him. He's also got a background in electrical engineering, similar to Mayor Davis, so that's great. You guys can hash it out afterwards. Antonio serves on the STEM Advisory Board for the Miami-Dade City Public Schools, so that's excellent. And we're joined by Jenson, who's the CEO of Cybertrust America. They provide visibility, awareness, and consulting services to partners here in the United States as well as abroad. So again, please join me in welcoming them to the stage, and glad to have everyone here today. Yeah. Oh, no.
Vegas, baby, Vegas. We bring it all.
Yeah. We'll start off talking about, we've got such a diverse group here on the panel. We're going to start talking about partnerships and the significance of partnerships in terms of cybersecurity. We have representation from city governments, from federal government, the private sector and nonprofits, as well as academia. And I'm interested, let's start maybe with Mayor Davis and just talking about how you've been able to leverage key partnerships to better protect your city, your constituents, and the citizens of Augusta.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, for that question. We couldn't do what we do in Augusta without partnerships, and those partnerships extend beyond local government. We're very fortunate to have with us Katie, who knows our city well, and has been a part of those transitional actions for us. We've partnered with not only our local research university, Augusta University, but also with Army DOD. We have the Georgia Cyber Center that's now based in downtown Augusta. When the Department of Defense decided to move ARC Cyber to our city at Fort Gordon, we got the tremendous benefit of that in terms of leveraging just that capacity where oftentimes from a local government standpoint, we don't have the sandboxes to play in, and we don't have the skill sets that keep up with current technologies. And so we've been fortunate to be able to leverage that through those partnerships with not only the Army at Fort Gordon through ARC Cyber, but also through the Georgia Cyber Center, which is a partnership between the state of Georgia, the city of Augusta, and our local research university that also stood up the Augusta Technical College as a part of that effort as well. And so we're able to not only train new professionals, but we're getting the benefit of many of them coming to work for and with the city of Augusta in terms of creating those long-range partnerships.
Excellent, thank you for sharing. And Katie, we talked earlier about your involvement with helping set up the Georgia Cyber Center, but could you talk to the audience a bit about the work in the unclassified space to be able to be more collaborative in terms of cybersecurity and resilience?
So, Mayor Davis has done an incredible job with the Georgia Cyber Center, and I think has really recognized the potential. So, as he said, Army Cyber Command moved its headquarters down there, and our team, Defense Digital Service, we work really closely to bring unclassified commercial technology into the Department of Defense. And the Georgia Cyber Center was a perfect place for the Army to experiment with having a collaborative, unclassified space to do software development. Oftentimes it's really challenging to do that in different spaces within DoD because we're worried about the the security of the environment, and kind of skittish sometimes about commercial software and tooling. So what the Georgia Cyber Center allowed us to do is show the Army, what can be done at an unclassified level and how much more seamlessly you can get collaboration with NSA, with NGA, with other DoD and intelligence community organizations. And so we've really appreciated the partnership with Georgia Cyber Center to be able to demonstrate that. And Army Cyber has actually scaled the space in the Georgia Cyber Center, and they've been able to do some incredible work there more seamlessly than they could using just DoD technology.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Michael, we talked earlier in our conversation about training, about cyber talent. It's something that Mayor Davis brought up in terms of skill sets and capabilities. How does the city of Las Vegas and your team, how do you compete or attract or retain talent to be able to support your efforts there?
So we do a lot of great things. Obviously, Las Vegas is a great place to be regardless. So from a talent perspective, they do enjoy that. We have some great conventions and conferences. But I think the mayor, it's all about bringing awareness. It's creating positive opportunities. And a lot of our cyber approach now is not just focused on internally to the city, but it's creating partnerships with the community. It's how do you help small business and minority business. The worst thing that can happen to them is they start a business and then they are phished or they have some kind of cyber event that prevents them from going to the next level. So it's really our new goal and focus is to really start working with the community directly, helping the community and helping business, small and medium-sized businesses become cyber aware, partner with the city and law enforcement resources, and really use that as an economic base as well as a positive base to spread good education.
Thank you. And Lan, you also, I know you're working with small businesses and to be able to provide opportunities to increase their capabilities and awareness, because oftentimes a small business can't afford to have someone as Michael's talent to be the CTO or to have somebody who can manage an entire department of cybersecurity professionals. So maybe you could share some thoughts on that as well, please.
Super honored too. I kept nodding my head as Michael was saying. The one thing that's been plaguing our industry and everyone in the community, in the country, is the shortage of talent to defeat or match up with the rising threats in cyberspace. And as more organizations and local governments decided to help their small businesses, there's even a bigger shortage. And organizations like Antonio's, later on we'll hear from him, also are providing such talents. Now, increasingly, more organizations are realizing that the gap between hiring and between the readiness of students from a school is there. It's not being eliminated just because we are now graduating more students and because there are more smaller businesses in need of such. So what my nonprofit, here's why I did it in the nonprofit, is to provide such a platform to mentor, bring the cybersecurity professionals into the mix, and they can mentor their students, and together as a team, they can enable the small businesses to go online safely. And this has proven to work, and I'm based in Silicon Valley.
Thank you. Thanks, Len, for sharing. And Antonio, when we were discussing academia, and as she mentioned, being able to bring more students into the workforce, recently Miami-Dade College was named a National Center of Academic Excellence in Cyber Defense. Could you talk about some of the efforts that your institution is doing to be able to bolster the cyber talent force and also to be able to do things such as partner with, in the future, cities, whether that's here in Miami-Dade or other parts of actually essentially the globe?
So at Miami-Dade College, like they say 6-7 years ago, we didn't have cybersecurity programs. But we saw the numbers, hundreds of thousands of people, the jobs that are open and available and the need for talent. And we decided like we need to do something about it. So we started 5 years ago building a cybersecurity program that is tailored to have people meaningfully serving in local government or any business really securing and providing services. The reality is like when you jump into cybersecurity, it's like how we provided the right skills to the students. We started by giving them an environment where they learn by doing, not necessarily from a book, but they learn by doing, by being under attack. And the way that we develop the programs are very hands-on oriented, very focused on getting a job at the end, not just a degree, but the certifications and the job. And that's why just 4 years later, when we didn't have a program, now we do have a full pathway that ends with a bachelor degree, but more important, with the technical skills to be employable. We're able to have over 600 students in our programs from not having any. So that speaks about not only that there is a huge demand, but there is a lot of people that want to get into cybersecurity. So feeding the market, but also, as you say, with the NSA designation as the National Center of Academic Defense, that speaks about the excellence, the quality of the program that we built to serve really any company with the tools to really get the talent that they need.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. The title of the panel is supposed to be addressing the invisible threat within cybersecurity, but the threat actually, in my opinion, is not invisible. At the other side of that computer, on the other end of that hack or that data breach, there's an individual or an organization, maybe not representing a city, but in some cases representing governments, representing different militaries, and also representing criminal organizations. And so part of the work that we do at Mastercard is working with partners such as the folks here on the panel and those of you out there to be able to understand the attackers that we face, that threat, to understand they also have talent as well, just like on this side of the wall, and be able to look at ways to mitigate those threats to be better protected. And at the end of the day, to better protect that ecosphere that we all want to live in and function in. Part of that is understanding the attack surface that we're dealing with, whether that's at a national level, such as the Department of Defense dealing with national security issues, but also at a city level where, while it's not necessarily national security, but if you lose power, if you lose water, if you lose the ability to have transportation for your citizens, that becomes a crisis. At an academic level, if there is a data breach where you lose students' information or the ability, for example, to run classes, that becomes a crisis at that level. So it's important that we understand that attack surface. We understand the ways that attackers can come after organizations such as yours. And I'd like to just talk a bit about that, about legacy systems, about supply chain issues in terms of cybersecurity. And maybe Davis, can we talk a little bit about how in the city of Augusta, how you've been able to effectively manage dealing with legacy systems and dealing with such a large, diverse staff and team within the city, and understanding where you have potential vulnerabilities and how you get after securing and protecting that, please.
Absolutely, Brian. In cities, 85% of our nation's GDP happens in cities. And when you think about that from the perspective of the importance of securing cities, especially along the lines of cybersecurity, it goes without question that you've got to have not only talent, but you've got to have talent that maintains its effectiveness with new technologies while trying to manage. And in many instances, especially in our case in Augusta, and we're not unique in this, it's how do we move legacy systems out of the way, but do that in an efficient manner. And so I mentioned a few things. One, in this new hybridized work environment, what we've done is now, we've effectively extended our theater of threat, because now I've got people who are working at home, and I'm having to make sure that I'm securing tablets, laptops, and other devices in the same manner that I would if they were domiciled in a building that's native to our campus. And so to that end, we spent a great deal of time of not only identifying legacy systems, but looking for ways that we could, again, transition beyond that to cloud-based services for many of the things that we do from a city standpoint. It's great that we've got a team of about 60 plus technology professionals servicing 3,000 employees that are city proper. But that awareness extends to our website, which becomes an open portal for people to do business with the city, whether it's licenses, whether it's paying their water bill, paying taxes, or a variety of other things that they're doing. And so we've had to, again, try to manage each of those domains in a way that allows us to deal with the challenges of spoofing, spamming, phishing, and I'm not talking about fishing for marlin or any of those things, but how cities can be crippled, and we've seen that happen. And so we've been fortunate, again, to have these broad partnerships that have extended to CISA as well and Homeland Security that help us do that, because we're not always able to, in local governments and sometimes state governments, to keep up with the changing technologies and or the threats that are out there. I'll mention this, I know it's probably later in the conversation, but I would encourage cities and city leaders to do a series of things, starting first and foremost with starting and identifying secure insurance vendors. That is critical. If you are attacked and hit, you want to make sure that you've got a layer of protections, and cyber requires that there are layered protections that you put in place. Insurance is one of those things beyond the technology phase of it.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, you brought up having defense in layers and also emerging technologies, transitions from attackers and the way that they're going after institutions, again, in terms of cyber attacks. Michael, in Las Vegas, is there anything else different that you all are doing as a city? One of the things that you brought up during our initial conversation is Las Vegas is famous as what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas, but you told me that that's not the case for malware. And Las Vegas is similar to other cities like Orlando, but it's very famous for its conventions and tourism. Can you talk a little bit about what the city's doing in terms of incorporating in your cyber defense both visitors as well as your local citizens to be part of your overall capabilities?
Sure. So we are the capital of entertainment and fun in general. We're also, unfortunately, with all that fun and excitement and people coming in and out, we're also in the top 5 of malware and viruses. So what people bring with them, they don't always take with them. We'd like them to take those with them when they leave. But it's more about education again. I think the mayor did a great job on talking about the internals. We're not just focused on working with our internal employees and going over the cybersecurity and layers that it takes to defend and protect our agency. We're also going to start looking at working with what we call the community. And the community could be someone that's there for a day or a week on vacation or there for business or a convention, as well as the person and individual that might live in the city as well. And part of that philosophy and footprint is to provide education across the board to kind of help people understand what they're doing and how that might impact their own organization's cybersecurity or the security of the Las Vegas environment in general. When you think about it, CES is coming up soon. That is a large convention and consumer electronics show, upwards of 300,000 people swelling into one location. The opportunity for viruses and all types of different things to occur rises. It also doesn't hurt when you have the largest, we'll call it hacking or cybersecurity events in town, and you invite these individuals to your town. And those would be Black Hat and DEF CON, and there's a few others. That take a different approach, and it's more about education, more about outreach, and it's trying to defend and provide information to those that may not be aware. And we have a really great city council that helps us, guides us, and not only provides us the resources and tools to secure the inside of the network and work with staff, but to start reaching out to the community as well. And that's where we really get our force multiplication, is by not just using our internal cyber staff, which we'll never have enough of, but it's trying to now leverage an army of individuals or a community of individuals to help us defend and protect the city as well.
It's awesome, yeah. I thought that was great because you also talked about CyberSafe Nevada as a program that you all participate in to be able to incorporate even more people and capabilities, so that's excellent.
Yeah, so we're trying to create some community movement and some groundswell, so CyberSafe Nevada, specifically for working with not just education, so education is important. When we talk about education, I'm not just talking about the phishing and the spamming and all that, but providing these individuals with information about how to deal with those threats, as well as job preparedness and training. We have an Air Force base with a lot of talent that as they retire out, we'd like to be able to bring into the community, utilize, and help. So trying to create movements and meeting spots where people can come together, talk about it, get educated, and then hopefully not just find a job, but go back and maybe start their own company, but have some understanding about cyber safety and cyber awareness.
Wonderful. Part of being able to counter the threat that we all face in terms of cyber is being able to have the right talent. We've talked a bit about that, but also being able to provide that talent the opportunity for trainings, for upskilling or reskilling. Even during the couple of days we've been here, and part of my conversations with folks who maybe don't work in cybersecurity, they're interested in how do you get into that sector, the wide breadth of opportunities in cyber, whether you're somebody with, like Antonio and Mayor Davis, that have that background in engineering, or you're somebody who's focusing more on partnerships and engagement and looking at threat intelligence and understanding what's critical, what's not, and applying your capabilities that you do have towards that. But while we're talking about, again, training and skills, and we're on the topic of Las Vegas, Katie, could you talk a little bit about, please, recently at DEF CON, you all supported a Hack the Airfield exercise, an event. And could you just talk to the folks here how you did that, the purpose behind it, and some of the results, the unclassified results, if you will. I think it's interesting because, again, from city perspectives, you have airports and airfields, and as a mode of transportation for people to come in and out, whether that's for business or personal reasons. You also have, in terms of transportation sector, a vulnerability. We saw just at the beginning of the month in Moscow, the Yandex taxi application was hacked, and hundreds of taxis were used to bottleneck and throttle roads to mitigate transportation within the city of Moscow. Now that came from anonymous. However, that is a capability, something that could happen here in the United States in a city. So please share a little bit about Hack the Airfield at DEF CON.
And first, to touch on what you were sharing, I do commend the city of Las Vegas for hosting DEF CON. I mean, you're literally inviting 30,000 hackers, and Vegas is such a playground. But it's really important, and it's something we've done at DDS. It's really important to bring in ethical hackers to real-world situations, and the things that they're able to do. They're able to exploit hotel key cards. They're able to exploit ATMs, and I give Vegas a lot of credit for saying we'd rather know about that than not. It's really risky, but I think Vegas has to be commended for creating that environment. So my team at Defense Digital Service, I send a team of about 10 or so hackers on our team to DEF CON every year, with the goal of demonstrating to DoD where we have major vulnerabilities in our technology. My goal is to recruit. We want to find more of those people to join my team. But more importantly, we want to show the services where they have weaknesses. So this year, we had two different presentations. One, in partnership with the Air Force, was Hack the Airfield. And so what we're demonstrating there is the protocols that are common, sort of industry standard, and used by the services, used by the Air Force, are very exploitable. And when we're looking at how we can better secure aircraft, the advent of more technology, more software on planes, has also increased the attack surface. You'd be surprised that not only have the protocols not been really ever updated in terms of how we fly planes, but now you add the layer of software from everything from entertainment systems to flight control. So what we do at DEF CON, is actually simulate aircraft like the F-35 so that the ethical hacker community can demonstrate to the Air Force just how sort of simple it is to exploit the aircraft. On the other side, we also came this year in partnership with the Army, because the Army is looking to scale microgrid technology, which my background is actually in urban planning and cities, and so this is sort of near and dear to me. The Army has a couple of experimental microgrids in California at two bases out there. And their goal, as part of their climate change prevention efforts, is to, and also resiliency efforts, is to scale microgrid technology to Army bases across the country. But what we were demonstrating at DEF CON is there are still some major vulnerabilities in terms of how those systems are architected. What we showed at DEF CON, for example, is that microgrids are controlled by weather data, which is, it's pulled from NASA NOAA, for example. And if you manipulate that data, so you say, instead of reflecting the weather pattern that controls, Texas microgrid, we're going to show at Alaska, we're going to inject that stream. You can actually cause it to do the exact opposite of how you want it to perform. So for us this year, it was really incredible to go with both the Army and the Air Force to demonstrate sort of big DoD, leveraging the ethical hacker community, what we need to do differently in terms of the software that we utilize to run everything from aircraft to our base infrastructure.
It's awesome. Congratulations. I thought it was a really great effort, and congratulations on you all taking that initiative to do that. And again, thank you for sharing that with the audience. Antonio, some of the things that I often say, you don't know what you don't know, especially in terms of cyber. So what are things that your students, as part of your institution, what are some things that the students are looking to learn, things that they maybe can learn from the panelists as they move forward into careers in cybersecurity?
So overall, I think that we have students that want to go into cybersecurity, and of course we build a full opportunity for them to learn, and at the same time to get industry certifications. Just a way that they not only get skills, but they can demonstrate that they have the skills and they can get a job. So we go from all the way into, of course, the fundamentals of cybersecurity, ethical hacking, ethics in cybersecurity, which is important, digital forensics to understand what happened after an attack, but also especially cyber defense. Now, that's overall on the students on a pathway to a degree in cybersecurity, but reality is like nowadays, you have to train every single person on how to be a secure user, from your phone to the computer that you study or you work, and really we are as secure as our weakest link, right? And who is the weakest link? It's just us, people. So our job is not just to educate those in cybersecurity, it's how we educate across the board every single student. And by the way, Miami-Dade College is the largest college in the nation. So we have a big audience, and we're bringing this to every single student when they go through not just technology on how to use Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, is how to be a secure user. And we're trying to bring that as early as high schools, helping high school teachers to bring this content early on, because again, kids are getting on the phone at a very early age, but they don't have any clue about security. So that goes all the way from kids to high school to college, but especially to our businesses and government. And what we are doing in the college is trying to educate also anyone on the community as a business, like bring their teams and give them that opportunity to how to be a secure user from the easiest point of view, on not to compromise your company, your network. So really taking an approach across the board on becoming that training provider to help anyone understand how to be secure.
You're absolutely correct. And as within Mastercard, we have a team of individuals who focus outside of the United States and Canada. So that's part of the team that I'm on. And as we travel around different regions, and where I work in Latin America and the Caribbean, and engaging with institutions, academic institutions similar to yours, or with cities and other governments, for example, I was recently in Costa Rica. And if you're not aware, in May of this year, Costa Rica suffered a series of 2 very critical and significant ransomware attacks that devastated the country. And it's impacted them so much that even now we're towards the latter part of September, and the national health system, doctors still have to have prescriptions written by hand. Medical records were lost for their citizens. People's surgeries were delayed because all the appointment system was taken down. So it's very significant that it is that weakest link, because in the case, unfortunately for Costa Rica, it was an error caused by one of their employees at one of the different ministries within that government. And that's something that can impact any of us in the work that we do professionally. And I think it's something that we need to take account of, remembering that there is a cost to it, not just in dollars. In 2019, the average cost of a data breach in the United States was $3.86 million. In 2021, last year it was $4.24 million. So I don't know who can afford to lose that much money, but it's also the personal cost. Some of the people, for example, in Costa Rica that I met, one gentleman, his wife, stage 4 cancer, had a treatment delayed because of the ransomware attack that happened in May. So it does have a real impact on not just dollars and businesses, but on people. And one of the things that we do at Mastercard is then use a variety of tools to be able to support our partners whether that's quantifying the cost of an attack or vulnerability, or providing a reconnaissance, if you will, of that attack surface that we discussed at the beginning. And if you haven't had a chance, I'm not here to sell Mastercard at all. If you want to buy stock, though, that's great. But that's not what I'm here to do. If you do have a chance, though, and you'd like to talk more with the panelists, please do. And also, if you haven't had a chance, we have a great coffee booth set up right at the entrance, so please swing by and talk to the team. While we're talking about awareness and just that like Antonio said, being able to understand these threats, could you please talk, Lan, a little bit more again about some of the work that you all are doing with cities such as in San Jose to be able to provide more opportunities in terms of security and awareness trainings?
I'd love to. Earlier I mentioned, we're located in San Jose, but we have partners everywhere.
Globally, right?
Right, globally. And also working in collaboration with NIST. So everyone knows about the NIST cybersecurity framework. But for smart cities, everyone is doing their own thing. So there has not been a centralized framework yet. So I'm directly working with a group of people called GCTC in NIST. It's a program. Hopefully, stay tuned. We will have something on that coming forward to the effect of the framework that everyone can leverage. But about the cross-functional collaboration, I think together jointly, we all face right now a once in a lifetime, to borrow a cliche phrase, opportunity to really take on the challenge of equity issue, digital divide, and the shortage of cybersecurity talent all on. And that is possible now. Previously, we say, oh, there's no funding. Now, guess what? With ARPA money, with the infrastructure bill money, a lot of local governments are indeed thinking ahead. And this is a time, I have a phrase called digital as capital. The one example is that in CARES Act money, for $10,000 you can save one small business. But if you build digital as capital into your effort as policy, that same $10,000 can now help 5 or 10 or even more small businesses to create revenue in the digital economy. And to do that, one way is to have across the board a digital playbook and also a volunteer marketplace. And by the way, this is just not my own brilliant idea. This also is the recommendation coming out of the Silicon Valley Recovery Roundtable, made up of the mayor of San Jose, together with other 59 leaders in the Silicon Valley area. What I did was just to put it in action. And it is proven to work, with small businesses coming out saying, yes, can you provide more? And I'm willing to pay.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Mayor Davis, you said at the beginning, what was the figure you gave in terms of
85% of the nation's GDP is in cities.
Yes, and the majority of that's probably from small businesses, medium-sized businesses, again, who are at risk for cyber attacks.
Absolutely.
So we don't want to definitely lose that at all.
We don't. That's our competitive advantage as a nation.
Yep. As you think about emerging threats and maybe emerging technologies that adversaries could use, what in your opinion, Mayor Davis, would you say is something that as a leader of a city such as Augusta would be of concern for you?
I think the biggest concern that I have is the vast number of opportunities, i.e. jobs, that are out there. Antonio talked about the 3 R's, recruiting, retaining, and rewarding talent. But for us in Augusta, we've tried to take an approach that is really a GHK approach. Grow, hire, and keep. We started the Cyber Pathways curriculum in our city, starting at 3rd grade through 12th. It's an adopted and accredited education pathway for students in schools, first started in Richmond County, now the entire state of Georgia has adopted it. And I think that getting people in this space, it's one thing for, and I don't want to date myself, it's one thing to have played Sega Genesis in my era, but it's another thing to have an Xbox or a PS5 playing games today. But we want to be able to take students beyond that to understanding the threats to not only those devices that are online in many instances because of gaming, and say, hey, look, these are tools that you play games with, but people are making life decisions. And if we can get you smart on how to secure them, how to protect them, to include extending that to your phones, I think that is the thing that kind of keeps me motivated in this space, wanting to make sure that we're growing, hiring, and keeping the talent, and giving them a platform to continue to develop those skills that are necessary. Cyber is going to be here forever. And you know, we think about the threats that are today, but there are threats that are tomorrow. And this is how we play and how we win.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just like we started with partnerships. We talked about cyber talent, and you're absolutely right. It's critical to think the next 10, 15, 50 years. Because time's going to continue whether we're here or not. If I leave and go on to somewhere else or something happens, I mean, it's still going to continue. So we need to be prepared for that. As we're getting ready to close the panel, I want to ask each of you just in one word, how would you describe cybersecurity and why? What word would you use to describe cybersecurity? I'll start with Antonio.
Partnerships. It's collaboration. We were discussing in other countries how they collaborate in cybersecurity. That's something that we can do better, so collaboration. Partnerships, collaboration.
Wonderful, thank you. Katie?
I would second that. You know, having now been at both DoD and the city of Chicago, I think cities play a critical role in our national security, and vice versa. You know, we need to be sharing what we know about the attack surface with our municipal partners. So I completely agree. I would add critical and collaboration.
Thank you, Michael.
I'm going to go with community. Kind of lead on the partnership role, but engaging everyone in the community to work together.
Wonderful. Lan?
I'm going to add digital twin. Digital twin. We all have it. Smart cities will all have digital twins. So unless we protect the digital twins, we're going to suffer.
Thank you. Mayor Davis?
I would add the word competency. Cybersecurity competency.
Excellent. And why would you add that word?
The threats consistently changing. The environment changes, and the people change. Those that are on the other side of the wall oftentimes are different than the ones on this side of the wall with different agendas, and we've got to be competent in all of those arenas to make sure that we can maintain our competitive edge.
Excellent, thank you. And I would just like to add the word opportunity. Yeah. We have the opportunity with cybersecurity to be successful, to demonstrate leadership to our constituents and the people we work for and with. But we also have an opportunity, unfortunately, to fail. And so hopefully, with some of the things that we've discussed today here on the panel, sharing the ideas of partnership, collaboration, of community, of digital twins, of competency, and being able to, again, increase capabilities, working together for a better future, I think we have the opportunity truly to succeed. So please join me in thanking the panelists today. Thank you all of you for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you.